Hi everybody, I'm Jack and this is Raw Tropical Living, coming to you on a Saturday afternoon here in Jaco, Costa Rica. It's the Saturday before Easter, not sure when this one will actually air. Anyhow, I'm going to get right to it, just so I don't take this into too long of a video, and I'm not going to give you my details from the time I was a kid. I'll try to keep this brief. I just figure, like, when you're telling your story, it may help others if they know where you're coming from and know that, you know, this isn't something that you just come to naturally. Okay. Anyhow, I'll do real briefly. Like, I went through a period about 4, 5, 6 years ago where I had a lot of stress in my life, or rather I was letting stress get to me. Was smoking a lot, had cut back a few times on the drinking, but was still drinking fairly regularly, even if not getting drunk, you know, just having drinks every day. Had a stressful situation in my life. Anyhow, let's start in September of 2011. Okay, after having some stressful periods, I decided I was going to move from the beach to San Jose, Costa Rica, which is the capital city, just to, to have a little bit of a change in my life. Okay, as soon as I got to San Jose, I hadn't worked in a while, so I was worrying a little bit about finances, and I'm staying in a dirtbag hotel. I wish I had some photos of this. Most of you out there would be appalled you couldn't stay there. It was like $12, $13 a night. Cockroaches, all kind of stuff, and there were, obviously I didn't have a place to make food, so I just got anything in the area. I was in a really dirty period when I first moved to the city, so yeah, I was basically, like the title said, I was living on beer and fried chicken. There was a little fried chicken place around the corner from my house, and you talk about greasy, it was greasy. I'd go there sometimes for dinner after already having 3 or 4 beers, grab a couple of beers, get about 3 or 4 pieces of fried chicken, maybe. They're really egg rolls. They call them taco chinos, Chinese tacos here. And I'd get a couple of these, and you could just basically squeeze them and watch the grease come out, the same as you could with the chicken. Anyhow, fast forward about a month, I get a house, or I find a place to rent in San Jose. And I'm still conscious about the money, so I'm not doing a lot better. We have these things down here, these little soups that you just pour hot water into. They're basically about the same as ramen noodles are in the States, but so they're just full of sodium. So I'm eating that. As I'm living there, we're getting from September into October. We're getting as the holidays progress. I'm not terrible, but there's a sports bar around the corner, and I do tend to go over there and get hammered a good bit during football season, eating wings, eating nachos, whatever, hot dogs. They had hot dogs and french fries on that plate that was a fairly cheap price, so I would eat those a lot. So a lot of garbage, a lot of booze, regular booze every day. We get closer to the holidays and the booze is getting a little bit worse, and maybe it's like, it's just the atmosphere. I wasn't depressed, but it's raining a lot. I'm working from home, and I just tend to buy a little cheap bottle of vodka every day. And you don't make the best eating decisions when you're drinking, and I'm drinking beer and doing a little vodka, just kind of keeping a little blurry buzz going pretty much all the time. Got into a few problems in January of 2012 with drinking. Hurt my shoulder real bad, got really tanked one afternoon, and just went out at night. Don't even know where I was. It was a blackout. Fell, messed up my shoulder. Shoulder was messed up for a few months. Later on in January, and this is where the change came, I thought I'd lost my computer after a drunken night, and it was at a sports bar. So, I'd been planning on starting to clean up on January 1st, but, I didn't stick to the date. Anyhow, it happened around the 3rd week of January. I've been eating ungodly stuff. I'm living, I'm back to eating like heavy, anything with grease. I was loving cheeseburgers. Just to back up just a little bit, I don't want to make it over-exaggerated here. Like, even though I was either good or I was bad, I would eat. When I was eating bad stuff, it was kind of like, okay, I will eventually quit this. I'm going to try to eat as much bad stuff as possible. But I did go through a lot of periods. I knew a bit about nutrition, so it wasn't like I, for years and years and years, always ate bad. I went through lots of periods of eating very well. Eating lots of fruits and vegetables, even though I was eating meat at the same time. A lot of that time when I was being healthy, it was very small portions and not every day. Okay, anyhow, January 2012, I start on my road to health. And basically what I did, I'm starting a transition point. I'm starting to transition at this point, and at the time I know nothing about transition. That will come months later down the road. So basically what I did was I just started eating a ton of fruits and vegetables during the day. I would eat on fruit. I would make smoothies. I had a lot of smoothies back there because there was a good smoothie shop I could go to. I wasn't into juicing yet, even though I've juiced a bit in my life. In fact, I'm having a little bit of juice while I'm talking to you. This is spinach, ginger, and lime juice. Okay, so yeah, back to the story. January, I start eating better, and I don't restrict. I eat as much fruits and vegetables, smoothies, anything like plant-based during the day. And in the evenings, now, coming to find out this wasn't the healthiest at the time, but still probably better than some of the choices. A lot of nights I was still eating meat at the time. I'd eat beans and rice and a little bit of meat maybe 3 times a week or so. And I was using eggs, I'd eat eggs. But a lot of nights I would just saute vegetables in olive oil, which now I've come to learn you don't need to heat that olive oil. So anyhow, I start this process, and I'm trying to think back if I think I was going to the gym at the time, so I'm kind of staying, I'm starting to lean out, and almost from the beginning, I'm eating so many fruits and vegetables that I start dropping weight from the beginning. And here's a good time. I'm going to put, just so you'll know, that I'm not always thin, I'm going to put a photo, a before photo from 2012. Okay, so you see, I was overweight. I was probably, I'm going to guess, like, I know by the way my pants felt, I didn't weigh at that time, that I was over 200, probably closer to 210, maybe a tad over, but anywhere we'll say around 200 to 210. Yeah, so I just started eating this way, exercising a little bit. The weight started dropping off. Well, soon after, I started, and I talked about this in the last video, talking about it being about weight loss. So very soon after I started, the weight loss was a very secondary concern of mine. It started becoming about, okay, you're 48 years old. It's about once the garbage booze was out of my head and my head started clearing up a little bit, and my body was still detoxing even though I wasn't raw or vegan at the time. I'm getting a lot more clarity in my life, so I can think. Well, very soon it became like, I started thinking about all the drinking I've done for 30 years. I was a heavy drinker. I was a big boy. I mean, I'm not talking about any, like, I think a lot of people like to embellish their stories by some frat drinking or some cute little drinking or they've gotten drunk. No, I was a serious drinker. I sit down with a bottle of Jack Daniels. I sit down with a bottle of vodka, and I put people under the table, and I used to be proud of it at the time. Looking back, it's like, yeah, wow, something to be real proud of, being a heavy drinker. So I wanted to start, I started looking into things to detoxify my liver. I wanted to start looking into antioxidants because I was afraid, I'm going to get liver cancer. Am I going to get all the badness I've done? Am I going to have to deal with some cancer down the road? So I started looking into antioxidants. I started looking into things to detox, not knowing what real detox was at the time, but like detoxing my body and getting this stuff out of there. Okay, we'll fast forward a little bit. And I'm dropping weight this whole time. This started in about the 3rd week of January. And by the way, within a week I was smoking at the time. I quit smoking like a week after I quit drinking. I just figured it was easier to give up one at a time. Fast forward, I did get to my birthday, which is in March, last month, and I started having, for a couple of months I was having, and religious, no deviation in this, but so I was having a glass of red wine every night. A glass of red wine and a square of dark chocolate. No harm, no foul at the time. I didn't know any better, but all during this time, I'm cleaning up. I'm dropping weight. I'm feeling better. I'm getting more energy. Now we fast forward to, say, June of 2012, and one weekend, I'm clicking on somebody. It's one of those things like you're not quite sure how you got there. You click on somebody's link on Facebook or some avenue of social media. It takes you to something. You click on that, and before you know it, you've gone down 3 or 4 paths, and you're not sure how you get there. And that weekend, I found videos on YouTube about the raw vegan lifestyle. And I watched videos all weekend. I watched videos, and for probably the next few weeks, I watched videos like crazy. I was trying to absorb as much knowledge about this as I could. And sometimes within the videos, these people had websites. I would go and read about this. I started really educating myself. But from that very first moment, it's just like it was an aha moment. It made sense to me. I had cooked food after that, but other than honey, from that first weekend, I haven't knowingly had any animal products again. No milk, no dairy. I did have, like I say, I had honey, and I would say it's probably been 3 to 6 months since I've had honey, because I don't know why. I don't really like, a lot of the vegans don't like it, and to be honest with you, I've never used it a lot, so just I guess just to be, so I don't use it anymore. Anyhow, by the time I went vegan, I had really lost if it had just been about weight, I had really lost all the weight that I needed to lose. I'll have to dig up a photo. In fact, right about that time, I got a photo, or maybe a month after I went raw, of me being pretty buff and still, not being low body fat, but still having some of the muscle mass that I carried. So anyway, in the beginning, like most people do, my stomach just started kind of slowly shrinking. I wasn't trying to restrict, but as I went, I was eating less and less. I was living on smoothies. I was not eating near enough calories to make it through a day. If I had to guess, I probably could have been down low in the 1,000, 1,500 calories. Well, anyhow, the weight just keeps dropping off, and for some reason I'm not paying attention that closely. I don't have a scale, so I don't know what my weight is, but my pants are just like, it's almost like I'm in a fog, and I think my brain was deficient of food. My pants were just getting bigger and bigger. I was literally walking around sometimes holding my pants in the front like that, because I just thought they could slide at any time. I'm not being that observant. I actually physically took a knife and cut a couple of notches in my belt until I finally figured out, like, dude, you need to go get some new pants. I was wearing 34 at the time, and the way they size things, they weren't tight 34s in the beginning. It seems like everything seems to be bigger. Well, I went to a mall, and I went back to I bought a pair of jeans down here, and I was shocked when I wore 32 pants. That was crazy. I haven't worn 32 pants and maybe since I was a kid. Okay, well anyway, I started having this little problem, and at the time I didn't know what it was, and now I know I was just like low blood sugar. I was just about to pass out. Like, I got to this point where every time, first it just started from going from a low position to standing up, but it got to where every time I was somewhere and I stood up, I got a head rush, and it was in public. It was starting to get almost kind of scary, because I'd have to kind of stand up and make sure, don't bend my knees a little bit so I didn't just like flat hit the floor at some time, and kind of steady myself. Well, like I say, I didn't pay too much attention to this. I was getting weaker and weaker, and for some reason the mirrors in my apartment, or the lighting in there, it just didn't seem to show how my body really looked. So we get to late September of 2012, and 2012? Yes, 2012, and I go to my 30th high school reunion. Well, that's the first time I went back to visit my mom in Alabama, and that was the first time I had been back to the States since I went raw vegan. As soon as my mom picks me up at the airport, she's just like horrified. She's like, what have you done? What's wrong with you? What have you done to yourself? And that's the only time my mom has ever really reacted to this lifestyle. She's been very supportive, and I really don't blame her. I'm her son, and I looked like a crackhead, because at 6'2", who's always been thick, a big guy, I've even had, like, at one point I was 180 and had a six-pack, but I was still thick. I had the muscles. Well, I get on the scale and I'm 143 pounds. It freaked me out too. So immediately, instead of jumping back in, being a little bit more rational, getting more knowledge, I just think, okay, as long as I stay vegan, all bets are off. I can just eat, I have a license to eat until I get my weight up. So, and I'm still eating some cooked food at the time, which I still do now. I haven't in a while since I've been back down in Costa Rica, but I still eat cooked food from time to time. I'm not like a food Nazi on that. But at the time, then I said, okay, and I just started eating potatoes like crazy. And probably the potato part wasn't that bad, but I was drowning them in olive oil. Well, I got some of the weight back. I started learning more about this lifestyle. I started learning to eat more. I think as of that time, yeah, I did go for a month or two where I was probably going a little too heavy on the potatoes, a little too heavy on the oil, but I put some weight back on. And then as I started to, you know, read, look around a little bit more, I figured like, okay, all this high fat may not be good. I started looking into, and I started finding people that were talking about eating more calories. So I started eating more calories. I'm trying to think of the sequence of events. I mean, I still was eating, I've cut oil way back. But I went into 2013, went all through 2013, and I started putting back healthy weight on. That's where I lost the story. Sometimes, you know, I've bounced around a lot. I have to think about my story to put it together. Okay, 2013, I moved back to the beach here from the city maybe about this time last year, like mid-April. I had been working out in my apartment with the way I'm working out now with push-ups and with dumbbells. So I get back here to the beach and I join the gym again. And I get in there and I'm working pretty hard. I'm eating good. I'm drinking my green juices after my workouts. I'm eating a lot of fruit, and I'm starting to get a little bit fuller and feeling good, looking good. Now then a little chain of events happens, and I won't go into this one too detail. I'm going to do a video that's relating to this later. I think I'm going down to Panama for the day with a buddy, and I had a little irregularity with my passport. I ended up getting locked up in immigration in Panama for 3 weeks. A lot of stories there. I ended up no food like I can have. I get a big problem with my stomach. I do an 8-day water fast while I'm in there. Anyway, that's a story for another day. I get out of there and I'm emaciated again. I get back to the States and I'm in Atlanta. I'm not feeling good. I'm dealing with a stomach issue, and I even put a little bit back then because I was thinking, okay, what'll settle on my stomach? So I was eating rice. Now, I didn't eat a lot of rice while I was in Atlanta. I ate some rice. I ate some pasta for the first time in probably a year. Ate some bread, ate some pita bread and stuff like that. But once again, using the olive oil to put weight back on, just way too much. So I get back down to Costa Rica, maybe like I left in June. It was basically, or the middle of, like June 22nd, it was almost September before I get back. Okay, I get back here, the latter part of the year, I've put some weight back on. I really start looking into this, and about the time that I got out of that little situation in Panama was when I cranked up doing the YouTube videos. I had done one video before I left, then I'd disappear, and then when I got out, I did one from Atlanta, and then I started doing them regularly. Fast forward, let's see, September, October, November, December, I'm getting better and better, you know. I'm eating higher fat at the time. I'm not drowning like the olive oil. I've gone back to mostly eating raw, but I'm still using a good bit of the olive oil on my salads probably, and still using avocado while I'm using it. So I was a little high on the fat. As the year got, ended toward the end, though, I'm in pretty decent shape. Around the 1st of January, that's when I decided, okay, the fats, I'm going to look into that. And I really started looking into the health aspect of oil. Pretty much have cut out the oils. I'll use it every once in a while, and like I say, not fanatic about that. But I've cut way down on the fat. I may not be totally within the 80-10-10 parameters, but pretty much the only fat I will take in the day is the equivalent of an avocado. So anyhow, that's where I'm at. We're sitting here as of April 2013. I feel like I'm really starting to come into it now, not in a cocky way like I don't have more to learn. I have a lot more to learn. Who knows what my diet will be in 6 months or a year. But I feel at a good place right now, and I feel like I have a good foundation to build on from here. I'm eating a lot of fruit. I'm getting a lot of sugar from fruit just on a typical day these days, anywhere from 15 to 20 bananas and 64 ounces of orange juice as a minimum. But I'm also getting in a lot of my greens, especially in the evening. And in the evening, I put some of the fat, I get the fat in there. Usually the evening time, almost always the evening time is when I'm going to have the greens, and it's when I'm going to have the avocado if I'm using it. Haven't been using nuts a lot. I do have some recipes, and once again, I don't have any of these hard and fast rules like I'm not going to eat nuts or I'm not going to make cheeses or meats, because I do it sparingly if I'm going to do it. Anyhow, I hope this has given you a little perspective on where I've come from. I hope this didn't run too long. I may have to split this up into 2 parts. But the reason I wanted to do this is to show you I'm a real person and really kind of share that past with you, that I was, like a heavy drinker, a really unhealthy person, a person that had weight to live, and I'm nobody special. Somehow I just had my aha moment on this raw vegan lifestyle, and I chose to do it. We want to be accepting, we want to be loving, and we want to help people along. We don't want to be harsh when they fall, but at some point maybe they need that little bit of tough love. Like, it's a choice we make. Here's a candy bar. Here's something bad to eat. Nothing can physically make my hand go down and eat that. Like I said in the last video, you believe in this lifestyle, you educate yourself about this lifestyle, and you make your choices. I mean, after some point, it's kind of like the cigarette. We all did it quitting, or if you haven't quit before, well, that's how it was. You quit smoking, you might go 3 days, and then all of a sudden you have a reason, stress. Oh, I stressed, I needed to eat. Well, I needed to smoke. Why do we address stress with doing these bad things for us? It's like there's a Hindu concept called Maya. It's like seeing through a veil. Like, we don't really see life as it is. All these bad things that are supposed to, oh, let's go, I used to think the same thing. God, what a stressful day. Go hit the bar, drink alcohol, smoke a cigarette, eat bad things, eat comforting things, comfort food to make you feel good. It's backwards. It's all going to make you feel worse than you already feel. Anyhow, thanks a lot for joining me for my story. I hope it gives you a little perspective on me, a little perspective on where I've come from, a little perspective on the changes I've made. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, and go out and have a great day. Peace.